Hello, Anne Marie. How are you?
I'm well. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. Long time no see
I know.
virtually.
Just
Long time
moments
no see in
ago.
real life. Yeah, right. Everybody out there, we are the co-founders of Story Imprinting, and we have been shooting some of these videos just on a lot of topics that are relevant to storytelling and business. But today we want to kind of take it a little bit lighter, a moment of levity, because we are all confined to our homes. Some of us going on 3 to 4 weeks with, maybe you're alone. Maybe you got a lot of people around you, but it's hard all the way around, no matter how you slice it. And in recognition of that, we know that storytelling can be a really great escape. It can be a really important, valuable way to pass time. And it can be very soul fulfilling and soul enriching during these really tough times. So, Anne Marie, can you talk to me a little bit about some of the great stories that you're reading and listening to and watching right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think also there are just some, old stories that I think are really good in business in terms of just how to be motivated and focused. And there's so much learning that comes from listening to people's journeys, the mistakes they've made, some of the struggles we all have universally. Right now I watched Selfmade, which is the story of Madam C.J. Walker. And I connected to her great-great-granddaughter probably almost 10 years ago, Alelia Bundles. And I think that her book is really fantastic. The Netflix series is great as well if you're looking for something to watch, but as a deep dive into the story of the first American female entrepreneur who made $1 million. There are so many layered lessons about origin story, about asking for what you need, about
Mm-hmm.
recruiting, about using story to move people, about using it
Yeah.
as a marketing tool. It's such a rich and layered story in so many ways. I think that that's an excellent way to spend your time, and you can't help but to learn something and be inspired by that story.
Yeah. What are you reading? I'm sorry, what are you listening to?
What am I listening to? I mean, I'm listening to podcasts wise, nothing business wise. I have to be
Mm-hmm.
really
That's
honest.
okay.
But right at this very particular juncture, I will say
Yeah.
that. But I will say I do like Malcolm Gladwell's revisionist history. I think he
Mm-hmm.
does a really excellent job of taking research, but really shaping it or framing it in great narrative. So
Right.
if you listen to any single episode of his, you can really learn a lot, but he uses narrative structure, which is a great
Yeah.
thing for you to also learn, not just about the content, about what he's talking about, but also I think just in terms of how you can present as well when you're delivering a presentation yourself. And I also think if you're reading anything right now, I know I recently lent you Shoe Dog. I
Yeah.
think that
So
might be a
good.
story. How are you finding that? What are your thoughts on that?
When you gave it to me, I was like, I don't know. I mean, like I don't feel a particular affinity for the brand necessarily. But so I wasn't really quite sure what to expect, but it hooked me right away because I think it is great storytelling, and it illustrates the role that storytelling can play in pushing a business forward. Right. And now more than ever, that is vitally important. We're seeing that, of course, with the clients that we work with, and just you're seeing that play out, across all the news cycles with what brands are going to survive this, right?
Yeah.
And we're in a time unlike any other, and how are these brands telling their stories, and to a variety of audiences. So I'm loving that. As you know, I'm a big fan of Steve Martin. Like, all of his work is
Yeah.
always just really like lovely, like little confections. That's how I
Yeah.
describe his work. Um, and one of the singer-songwriters I'm really into right now is Janelle Monáe,
Yeah.
who's like still very underrated, I feel.
Yeah.
I mean, she's achieved incredible fame, but like she's still kind of underrated. I mean, her songwriting is smart. It's makes you think. It's never been more relevant, I think, frankly, in my opinion. So I'm loving her. And I've also just recently dove back into all the work of John Prine, obviously, because he just passed away, and he is really one of the most incredible songwriters of our time. And I was like shocked actually to see all of the music that he's
Yeah.
responsible for, some of which I was not didn't even know. So, and of course, like I'm still listening to The Moth and all of those storytelling type podcasts because I'm just hungry for content, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think this is such an incredible time to look at these stories. The reason I think things like Shoe Dog, which is about the Nike brand, his journey of how much he had to overcome legally, financially, competitively, I mean, is so heavy. And the stick-to-itedness and the tenacity and it's same with Madam C.J. Walker, same with, you know, an older movie, but the Chris Gardner story with The Pursuit of Happiness.
Yes.
The reason those stories are so critical to all of us, and I always say this, the right story at the right moment can save your life, is it reminds us that people have overcome staggering odds in incredibly difficult circumstances to thrive in spite of everything in front of them, despite everything in front of them. And I think that that's really valuable and useful when you get into these moments, which you will if you haven't already, congratulations, where you just feel like this is so horrible and how much worse can this get. It's heavy and that's valid. That's not, you know, something that's not valid. But I also think you need to remember that people have struggled mightily in business over the course of history in different circumstances and rose above those odds.
That's right. I know. I picked up Educated again last night because it was just on my bedside table. Obviously, like not a storytelling business story, but
so great.
Talk about somebody that just overcame incredible circumstances, the likes of which most of us probably could not even, you know, imagine. But the storytelling, as tough as it is for me personally to read that book, the storytelling is really excellent. So there's escape all around us.
And I was thinking about, you know, I blogged about this, but the other, like a little bit older documentary, not that old, but a little bit older, is the Joan Rivers documentary. She is not somebody, did you see that?
I did, because you told me about it.
Yeah. Oh. That's why I told you to watch it about it.
Yeah.
For me, I was not a big fan of hers, to be totally honest. I did not find her style of humor resonant for me personally. But her story is kind of incredible, and what she did as a woman in her time, and she was a businesswoman actually, you know, in addition to being a comedian. And I just thought her work ethic and the way she managed enormous tragedy in her life and her resilience made her so much more human and relatable and empathetic, you know?
Yeah, I know. And actually, have you watched the Betty White documentary on Netflix? No. It's really good. And I mean, you know, she's different circumstances, but similarly, like coming up as a woman in Hollywood when she did, you know, to see kind of the arc that her career has taken and the choices that she's had to make. I highly recommend, of course the name is escaping me, but it's something related to Betty White. Netflix will beat you over the head with it. Yeah, if you start searching for it. So, well, thank you for sharing your faves. I remember Anne Marie used to do this great email way back when, before we were partners, and when I barely knew her, I used to get her emails, and she did my favorite things, kind of like Oprah's favorite things around the holidays. I really think you should bring that back, because you've never steered me wrong in terms of a recommendation. So
we'll do my favorite COVID social distancing things.
For sure. Weighted blankets, things like that.
Blanket,
I know you're into those.
That would be on my list, the weighted blanket, just so you know.
All right. Stay safe, my friends. Stay safe to all of you out there. Connect with us. Tell us what you think of these videos. Yeah. You may have heard the little people banging on the door. They don't seem to understand that when the door's closed, I'm working. You know, I know people out there can relate.
They can't. Maybe just like a slight electric shock when they touch the door. Nothing.
Also a great idea.
Just very light, like a no, like a little zap.
Yeah, like a zap.
You might do for like a fly or something.
I'll see if Target has that on order pickup. You know, when I head over there later.
My ideas I like to share. It'll be on my favorite things.
I love it. I'll look for it. All right, my friend. Talk later. Bye. Bye, everyone.